that. And he thought that this was going to be good for his new recruits that was coming up, have a new breed of a prison officer that was more sociable and more understanding. So we were asked to do it. I wasn't really too sure on it, because am I going in to help an organisation that I probably don't agree with most of the people that's in there in the first place, you know?
Yeah.
But I've thought sometimes you have to work within the system to change the system, so we agreed to do it, and we've been doing it for the last 4 years now. And I suppose the way I rationalised it was, yeah, I'm working with the system, but I'm able to influence the system when I'm in there. This is the new batch of prison officers. They're going to be in this system for the next 30 years, and we have a great opportunity here now to kind of mould them into a prison officer that's going to have more of an understanding with people. There's going to be less judgmental people, and create a kind of friendlier prison environment with more personable officers, really. And I suppose one of the biggest feedback responses we got, I think, was through Mountjoy's governor. They were after saying Mountjoy at the time, Mountjoy was staffed to 80% of recruits we had trained, and that they were way more engaging, found it way easier to build relationships with the lads on the landing. And so the feedback then from the recruits themselves, you know, they do 12 weeks in-house training, and myself and Sheila's module is always kind of 1 or 2, and the preferences, let's say, feedback at the end.
Yeah.
So
I can understand that, though, because I think from some of the focus groups that I did with prison officers and other service providers in prisons, was that they see the people coming back in, you know, the failures of the system, the people who they try to help, and maybe do well in prison, but then they get out and, like yourself previously, couldn't cope on the outside. And so they rarely saw the success stories, if you get me. So to see one like yourself, who was a thriving success story, and kind of showing them that it is possible, and that you have a massive role to play, lads and ladies, you know, on the landings. The class officers really are the ones with so much quiet power, in a way, because they
plus
get to know you.
The amount of contact time they have with prisoners on the landing.
Yeah.
Like Sheila always says, if Sheila can get into, let's say, the Midlands prison, if she has an hour up there a week to meet with 2 or 3 lads, like, the prison officers have so much contact time on the landing with the lads, and they can be a signpost for information. They can be a hub of information. They can be planting seeds.
Exactly.
And they can have so much influence other than just opening and closing doors. And to be fair to the IPS, there is more expected of the new recruits now.
Yeah. Well, I know that Michael Donlan, who was the former head, definitely believed that the class officers were the key change agent because of those relationships. And if I recall correctly, when we chatted way back, when you were giving me a few tips for my own interviews with serving prisoners, you told me about a lady who I think worked in the school in Cork Prison, an officer who spotted who spotted your ability and your brains, and was kind of saying, James, would you ever get in there into the classroom, kind of thing? And
but there was a female prison officer. She wasn't working in the school, but she would have been on the landings. But she herself was doing a college degree at the time.
There you go.
But I used to get on well with her, and she was doing a case study where I would kind of stay back. We used to meet in an office when the lads were out in the air on a Sunday evening and just chat about addiction and recovery and stuff like that. But she used to say to me, like, you can hold a conversation, you know, and you're probably the only one on the landing with a leaving cert, which I was. And she says, like, you have a lot of ability there, and you could nurture that, and you know, and that's another interaction then where I'm starting to look at prison officers and I'm thinking, they're not all what I thought they would be, you know.
Well,
and
that must have felt nice to be told that.
Yeah, but I suppose at the time my self-esteem would have been very low, and I would have been very skeptical on what she was telling me.
Right.
And I didn't act on, you know, but as I said earlier on, she's planting seeds.
Yes.
She's planting seeds in me that it was all, and I suppose when I was ready then I was able to tap into all this. I was there, you know, when I was in a better place, I was thinking, you know what, maybe I could do a course, maybe I could do this, you know.
Yeah. And when so did you get interested in education? Was it after you got out, or did you start going to some courses in the school?
No, when I was in the school and prison, I was doing pottery and art. I
Okay.
kind of went over there more for the social side of it,
Right.
really.
Okay.
Just for some structure to my day.
Yeah.
And then when I come out of prison in 2012, I would have been the last of my addiction would have been between 2012 2013. It would have
Okay.
been really chaotic, a lot of overdoses, intravenous drug use, and it came to a head then. I got myself into detox then. When I come out of St. Francis Farm Treatment Centre about 6 months later, I done a C scheme for 12 months, and I wanted more. You know, I wanted more. And then I met Gillian, my wife, and she
Okay.
was like, "You should definitely go to college." You know, so that's how I
She
started off. Then
had she been to do the course that you did then?
I done the course she done in the College of Commerce, and then the youth community because she done
Okay.
that too. But
Okay.
I started off with a level 3 computers through the
Okay.
Simon community,
Yeah.
through a Cork ETB tutor, and I started off basic. Now, like, you
Yeah.
know, this is a monitor, this is a keyboard, that
Yeah.
type of
Okay.
thing.
Well, fair enough.
But I knew whatever I was going to do, I needed to be comfortable around the computer.
Yeah.
So I started there, worked my way up, and finished up. Went from a level 3 to a level 9 in 5 years, and hopefully I get to level 10 soon.
Yeah, indeed. I'd say a lot of people have their eyes on you for sure in that regard. And tell me, did you always know you were smart?
Um, no, like smart. Like I was only having this talk with my brother a while ago. Like, what is smart? Is smart academic smart? Is smart emotional smart? Is sports?
Great
All
question.
these, like Howard Gardner's 9 intelligences. Like, who defines
Yeah.
brightness and who defines intelligence? Like, I always felt like I could hold a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
I always felt
Socially,
comfortable.
you were skilled that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I always felt skilled socially. I always felt I had a strong enough vocabulary that I could hold a conversation with somebody, even if they had way more qualifications than me. I could, you know,
Yeah.
represent myself well in that way. And that, I suppose, the confidence and the vocabulary helped me then, I suppose, to excel in university. Because I know people that wouldn't have that confidence. You know, it's all about, you know, if you have the bit of confidence, you can drive on, you know, but if you're lacking a bit of confidence, it can really hold you back.
Yeah. And
But even in addiction, I always kept up to date with current affairs and kept my eye on the news and read newspaper. I was always kind of tuned in with what was going on around the world, you know.
yeah.
I was always interested in, you know, social issues and kind of. When my dad was in prison, he done Open University,
Okay.
social policy and criminology. So I had that kind of cultural capital at home with the books he came out with,
Yeah,
and
cool.
my mother done a degree in CIT in community development. So
Oh
I was
wow, that's great.
raised.
Yeah.
So I was raised with all that. You
Yeah.
know, so all that stuff really helped me as well. You know, kind of looking at them with their books and with their interests, and I suppose youth community work and then criminology is kind of lending from the two of them.
And what were your experiences of schooling as a young boy and a teenager? Were you encouraged, or did you kind of find it not very interesting, or?
Primary school was fine. Primary school was okay, even though I probably was a bit of a mess. So I was bright in primary school. When I made the transition from primary to secondary school, it didn't go well at all.
No.
There was a lot going on at home. Plus, I moved into a different school. I moved from a mixed school in my local area to an all boys Christian Brothers school in another area. Very strict, very regimental. Didn't suit me at all. Just coming into puberty as well, I was, you know, on shaky ground as it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was in that school. It was like if you weren't good academically, we didn't want you. And I
Right.
was and it's not that I wasn't good academically. I didn't have the headspace for it. I wasn't in a good place for it, you know. And
Yeah.
the teachers were not, as we would call today, trauma informed. It was
Yes.
like he has ability, but he's not using it. I wonder what's going on here. It was like there was that
Challenging
question.
behavior.
Yeah, it was like put him into the class with. I was in a class with people that probably did lack ability, people that probably had learning disabilities, people that probably had dyslexia, but we were all kind of put into a class with about 8 of us, I'd say, and we were just kind of left there.
Right.
And I felt that we were treated very badly in secondary school. Spent a lot of time suspended, sitting outside the principal's office. Never any time did we have any link in with a school completion officer. Never did we have any liaison officers. There was none of that. I felt they treated my mother badly. They wanted her to take me out, but
Right.
she was adamant that I stayed there to do the leaving cert at least. So I was allowed back to sit the leaving cert. But my secondary school was a very bad experience for me. I hated it.
And when you say that they weren't trauma informed, I'm guessing no one asked, James, what's going on in your world? You know, is anything happening at home or in your community that is making you feel unsafe? None of that.
No, it was like, and I'm quoting there, no, I'm not missing. James, you scut, you tug. That was the language that was used.
Oh goodness, abusive
They're
language.
very, very abusive. And you're coming from an area as well, Jane, where there's already a stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
And now you're going to school and you're being called a tug, a scut, and it's all negative. Everything is negative. The only attention you're getting is negative.
Yeah, no encouragement whatsoever. And then how, jumping on then to when you were at UCC, did you feel well supported there? When you'd gotten the other qualifications and started in youth and community, how did you find it?
I felt very supported there because I had my own tutor, Noreen. She was very helpful. I would have been linking in with Sheila a lot then.
Okay.
She would have mentored me a lot. And and I just put in the groundwork. Read a lot of books, read a lot of articles, but yeah, I felt very supported. I had a lot of links. And Gillian had done the course.
Yeah.
My wife, so she was able to help me.
You had your home tutor as well.
Exactly. Like, I know I put in some work and I had some ability, but I've been very blessed with the people I had around me as well that helped me and encouraged me along the way. And I certainly wouldn't have been able to do it on my own.
No, but relationships are key, aren't they? I mean, that's one of the core messages of trauma-informed care, is that we all need relationships to help us regulate, to help us deal with distress, and also just encourage us and hold us when we need it. That's not unique to you, James. You know, it's all of us.
Yeah. And it's about like, if you're doing a bachelor's or a master's, you're doing a wide range of modules and a wide range of topics. You can't be an expert at everything, and you will come across stuff that is easier for you to learn than others. And you have to make peace with that. And I think when I got so frustrated there at certain points, especially in the bachelor's, because it just seems like, it's a marathon, it's 3 years, it just seems like you never get through it. And there was times where I thought I wouldn't get through it, but then pick up the phone to Sheila or talk to Gillian, and it's like, just get the essay submitted and move on to the next one. This is all about,
the little milestones.
It's just about kind of, it's just kind of getting clarity and, to give my thoughts to somebody and then for them to reframe it and feed it back to me helps me then to write. Come to terms with it all.
And so now the work that you're doing with the City of Cork ETB, what is your actual role there, James?
Well, we're an administrative, we've an administrative role really.
Okay.
We're like a mid-level governance between the Department of Children and Youth Affairs and youth projects in Cork. So we administer the funding and we provide some governance and oversight. That's kind of the gist of it. At the moment, there's a new funding scheme being rolled out, so we're kind of helping youth workers and new projects with their applications.
Okay.
That new revised youth funding scheme came out of a recommendation from Dr. Sean Redmond's targeted reformed youth funding scheme.
Okay.
He reviewed the whole scheme and kind of come up with this recommendation, and that's kind of what we're following through now. So it's been a long process. There was my role within it then would have been kind of doing area profiles, carrying out research in different communities, looking at the needs of the young people in them communities, and then coming up with a service requirement and kind of giving the service requirement into the youth projects, and then they kind of apply for funding to meet the service requirement. That's it.
Okay, very interesting. And that
Yeah,
must be kind of fulfilling for you. I know we're occupying a weird space right now with you working from home, and
yeah,
we're all in this twilight zone. But the fact that you're able to use and draw on your community experience, your
yeah,
education experience, your knowledge of deprivation and other
yeah,
challenges and trauma, that must be very valuable to your colleagues as well, that you have that
yeah.
expertise.
No, it's brilliant because my colleagues we all have a youth working background as well, you know. So the role I'm in now, I see it as a mix between the youth work background and the academic background. I can tap into both, and I
Mhm.
think the role suits me perfectly. And then outside of them funding applications, then we're looking at kind of running programs for young people and running programs for youth projects, and just kind of improving the outcomes for young people in Cork generally. Like,
Yeah. And I know that the CETB and that Ruth Griffin was involved, and McFinn indeed, with the whole trauma, raising awareness of
yeah,
trauma in Cork and becoming a trauma sensitive city. Does that sort of resonate with your own experience, that there is value to having frontline services and policymakers and practitioners on the ground be aware of what trauma is and what it can do to people, and how it
yeah.
can change behaviours and coping strategies?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I tell you now, I was after speaking at a Cork ETB senior management conference in Clarny a few weeks ago, where you had all the principals from Cork ETB schools and all other senior managers around Cork ETB. And I was speaking at that, and I was asked if I had one thing that I could influence, or if I could say one thing to influence the people here in the room, including the CEO, now, mind you, and everybody else. And I was basically saying to them to have some sort of trauma training for all the teachers in your schools. And the Cork ETB schools can be the trailblazers and all of this. I said, because there's a lot of young people that would have been like me, that's down the back of the classroom struggling, they might be misbehaving. And if we label them as messers or lacking ability, you're doing them a disservice.
Mm.
So hopefully, and I know I resonated with it, a lot of the principals afterwards. They come up and they start asking me more questions about it. They wanted to do the training. So hopefully Cork ETB will roll that out. But in terms of our branch within Cork ETB Youth Services, after I done when I agreed to do the Tommy Tiernan show, I was working for Cork Simon. In the
Right.
meantime, I got a new job in Cork ETB.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God,
What am I
everybody
going
knew.
to do? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know these people. How am I going to be perceived in there? You know, so I was only in the job a week when it was on telly. So I came in to work on the Monday, and there was a big bouquet of flowers there and a card, and it was lovely. Like, so,
Yeah, I remember the lovely tweet and the picture. It was beautiful.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and so no, and when I started the job, I had a lovely card saying thank you for coming to work with us, and all these little things, you know, all
Mm.
these little things are very helpful. And I suppose then if we can do the trauma training like what we were at with you, then we can kind of feed that onto our youth workers and our youth projects, you know.
Yeah. And just the message, I love Karen Traceman's phrase that every interaction is an intervention, you know,
Yeah,
and that again goes back to the prison officers and the landing, or anyone really, any teacher or probation officer, that if we're just a little bit kinder and more aware, that we can have the sparkle moments, or these
yeah,
moments of connection that can live
yeah,
on long beyond, you know, as in your own case, it didn't,
yeah,
the seeds didn't flower right then and there. It took some
yeah.
time, but better to have the seeds than not at all.
Yeah, totally. And there's people had an impact upon me that I'd say they don't even know they did.
Yeah,
But certain people in my life at certain times said certain things that I still think about today.
yeah,
But they probably haven't given it a second thought. So don't underestimate the power of a kind word, or a bit of encouragement, or a bit of compassion. You know, it really goes a long way for people.
um I've taken lots of your time, but I just want to come back to the idea of influencing policy. And I know that given your own past addiction issues, you're interested in influencing drugs policy and have written a few
Yeah.
newspaper articles and that type of thing. What would you like to see change, James, in this area?
I'd like to see, basically, the start of it, I'd like to see people to be not going to court
Okay.
for possession of drugs. I think, working in Cork Simon there for the last year or so, people losing their bed in the shelter, going into court for begging for possession of drugs, sent into prison for a few weeks. They lose their bed, they come out, they're getting sleeping bags. Like, there's something wrong with that system.
Mm. Mm.
Like, these are the most marginalised people in Ireland, and we take the little thing they had, which is a bed in a homeless hostel, and we take that from them because of using the very substance that's probably keeping them alive. Because if they weren't using drugs, there would definitely be suicides.
Yeah.
Drugs are serving the purpose. Like, how else could you live in that environment?
Yes.
How could you live in that environment sober?
Yes.
If there wasn't drugs or alcohol, they would not survive that environment.
Mm. And that's that's one of the things that I've learned to view drugs very differently, that they are actually an excellent coping strategy to start with, to get you through, to be able to live with yourself, to be able to quell the cortisol and all the hormones, the stress and the pain. But they're very unsuccessful ultimately, because you can never get enough of it to make it go away. But if we understand it as a pain relief mechanism, it's much harder to judge and criticize and condemn and criminalize. So you'd like to decriminalize?
I'd like to decriminalize entirely, not legalize, no, but decriminalize, in terms of, I don't believe in any version of reality should crystal meth or crack cocaine be legalized, I think definitely a user, and the role of police do have a role in combating the drugs issues, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the resources could be kept for further up. Other than that, then I think access to treatment. In my own research for my masters, which was actually submitted to the International Journal of Drug Policy, so fingers crossed it passes the review process.
Yeah, totally.
Basically, the findings of that was, the people I interviewed was the waiting time to get into the treatment centre, the waiting time to get onto methadone, the rigmarole to go through the system of just access treatment, the obstacles put in front of people. It's just deters people. And if you're, as I said again, if you're after leaving prison and you're homeless, or you're in around the city centre and you're being asked to provide 4 clean urines or stay sober for 6 weeks to get into, like, that's so hard to do.
Yeah, indeed.
And plus then, and I know, I recently started on the board of directors at Cork Simon, and they have a recovery house, which I was in myself a few years ago. But we need more of them, options for people leaving treatment, options for people leaving prison that have come into recovery in prison, kind of halfway house kind of systems to kind of support them through the first year of recovery where they're at their most vulnerable. That's what we're lacking. And you could have put in the best work in the world in prison and in treatment, but if you have no options when you leave, you're in big trouble of relapse.
That's right. We need the safety and the holding and the wraparound supports for people. Definitely,
yeah.
And I was talking to Dr. Austin O'Carroll a while ago for Law and Justice podcast, and he was saying we also have an absence of benzodiazepine detox, and that's such a problem in lots of communities, isn't it, James?
Yeah. Ben, when I went to St. Francis Farm detox, I detoxed from methadone and Valium, and Valium was by far the hardest detox I've ever done. It's the psychological strain it puts on you. The anxiety that you feel when even when you're coming to the end of it, you're going to be without.
Yeah.
The methadone is like a physical thing where you might get some aches in your legs and some chills or what have you. But it's the psychological pull the benzos have on you. It's nearly impossible to detox at home, I think.
Well, there's a man called Dr. Frank Corrigan who does a lot of work with he's a psychiatrist and knows a lot about the brain structures, and he says benzos act specifically on the fear centers of the brain. So obviously people take them to numb the fear, get rid of it, and then once the fear starts swelling back up again, it must be terrifying. That's exactly what they don't want to feel.
Yeah. But as I was saying to you a while ago, my using was based out of fear. I just felt fear all the time, fear, anxiety, fear of what? I couldn't tell you, but it was just a fear that was always over you. And it's so natural to look for relief from that fear
Yeah,
and
it
to
is.
stay in to live in your community with that fear, knowing that there's relief around the corner in the chemist. It's very hard to walk past that chemist. But I think in a controlled environment like a detox, you have some chance. But the problem is there are very limited detoxes. There are very long waiting times to get into, and everybody is vying for the same beds.
Yeah, and what it strikes me as someone who hasn't experienced those types of addictions is, like, if I had, and if I were ready to go to treatment, I'd find it so hard to wait. It's like waiting also for people with trauma histories is a challenge. You know,
Yeah,
they don't like waiting rooms. They don't like waiting for appointments often. It's kind of
yeah,
scary. And so
yeah,
if you're ready to get the treatment, why should you have to wait 6,
yeah.
12 weeks, you know?
Yeah, it's an unrealistic expectation to put on somebody that's living a very chaotic lifestyle. If
Yeah,
they come into Sheila's office, or if they come into support worker in Cork Alliance or youth work or whatever, and they've made that step to seek help, that's a huge thing for them. But now we're going to tell them, oh yeah, come back to me in 6 weeks' time and we might have a bed for you.
yeah,
It's very easy for somebody to throw in the towel and they're thinking this is not going to happen, you know.
that's right.
But
And to think
I
it's
think like
hopeless.
yeah, but in Cork City or in Cork City and County, there's one treatment centre for adults, $6,000 for 28 days. It's not really adequate, you know, for the amount of people we have in Cork, and we shouldn't always have to go outside of Cork for treatment.
No, no. If we're serious about it, if we're serious about actually helping people in addiction to recover
Yeah,
rather than
yeah,
punishing them, it should be much easier to access it as they need it, you know?
yeah. And I think there's a lot of people in politics that have the will and talk about Aidan O'Riordan
Yeah.
and David Stanton down Middleton and Lynn Rowan. There's good people there.
Yeah.
Just to kind of they're all on different parties then or
They
no
are.
parties at all.
But my own philosophy is we have to work with all of them. You know, if
Yeah,
they're open to it, it's like we need to try
definitely.
and bring consensus.
Of course. But it's great that we have them people in uh, places of influence or positions of power, because they could be the voice.
Yeah.
Just trying to, as how Michael D. Higgins saying the last time, there's no votes in prisoners and there's no votes in drug users, and it's true.
Yeah. It
It's
is
just trying
true.
to,
But addiction is wider than just prisoners and
yeah,
like, you know, it cuts across all of society. It's just some people
yeah,
are more impacted than others.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it is in all of our interests, I think, because if we want a safer society with less crime, if we can help addicted humans in a more humane fashion that's
yeah,
more effective for their needs, then it's a win-win, really. It's not about
yeah,
glorifying drug use. It's actually
yeah,
about a public health issue.
yeah. And if you look at people into myself and my circle of friends, as soon as they come into recovery and the drugs was put down, there was never a crime committed afterwards.
Yes.
It goes hand in hand. And if you treat the addiction, the crime stats will fall naturally, like they have in other countries. So it's very frustrating then if you have something that clearly works in other jurisdictions, but we haven't adopted it, or we've only kind of half-arsed adopted it. That's kind of frustrating. But I think we're going down the right path. It's just probably going to take some time.
You mean towards the Portuguese type of a model?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I have every faith, James, that you will be doing your part to keep banging the drum about
yeah,
these
yeah,
issues, and I'll drum along with you and play the
yeah.
triangle or whatever else is needed.
Yeah, we'll
And,
do our piece anyway.
yeah, thank you so much for joining me to talk about how to talk policy and influence people. I was delighted to chat with you and enjoyed it immensely. Thanks a million.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Take care.